Alrighty, peeps, we are here today to practice writing explanations. Woohoo! Alright, so what is an explanation? Sometimes we call it commentary. Think about what a sports commentator does. Writing explanations or commentary, or elaborations, as I like to call them as well. It's like being a sports commentator. You will give your own interpretation and evaluation of the evidence. You demonstrate your importance of that evidence. So you demonstrate, you show us the connection and the meaning to the claim. So you're like bridging the gap between evidence and the claim. You have to show us how they are connected to each other. So what's the difference? Quotes, evidence come from the text. They have the quotes, they're usually somebody else's words, blah, blah, blah. Where the explanations come from you and your brain. I want to hear how you are going to explain. So here's what it looks like in terms of the paragraph. First, we have the claim thesis statement, which is the opinion, right? We've been working on building strong claims thesis statements. Then you have the evidence or quote to support your opinion. And then number 3, which is what we're going to practice today, you explain why these two things should be connected. All right, here we go. I know you are dying to know what are some different ways to explain your quotes, evidence, and the connection to your claim. Guess what? I'm going to tell you. But first, pause the video, get a piece of paper and a pencil. All right, there are 4 different ways to explain or elaborate that we're going to talk about. Yay. P.S. What do you think of my Willy Wonka? Get it why? Do you get why I choose that? Huh? Little humor for your day. All right, the first kind is play it out. Opposite direction. This means that you're going to kind of compare and contrast the evidence with the claim. You'll explain the negative effect of what would happen if the evidence is ignored. For example, uniforms should be mandatory in schools is my claim or my thesis statement. To prove that, I have this quote. According to the author, the first school district in the U.S. to require all K-8 students to wear uniforms was Long Beach, California in January 1994. Their reasons for mandating uniforms were to deter crime and to increase student safety. Okay, now I have to explain why does this quote prove that uniforms should be mandatory. So here we go. Here's my explanation. If school uniforms were not adopted, so now I'm going to tell you what would happen if they didn't, the negative effect of if we don't have them. If school uniforms were not adopted, then it could lead to an unsafe environment. So that's the impact it could have, the negative impact. I'm going to tell you more details about this thought. Someone could come on campus and not be identified because they did not have a uniform. Safety risk. They could do harm to students and or the buildings. They could also steal resources, such as computers or iPad. Okay, so I went into great detail and gave you 3 different reasons why it's negative or it could be bad if we don't have uniforms. All right, now you try to explain this quote, and you're going to practice. Okay? So your claim thesis to practice with is binge watching can be beneficial for social connections. Your quote, according to procon.org, a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that binge watching can help long-distance relationships by replacing shared activities like going to dinner together and having mutual friends. Quote. So now you are going to try to explain what could happen if people don't binge watch. Okay? To help you out, you can try using one of these sentence starters to get you going. Write this explanation on your piece of paper. So pause the video and then press play when you have written your explanation on your piece of paper. Alrighty, we are back. But first, I'm going to have you evaluate your explanation. So go ahead and please reread your explanation. Does it further explain and make the connection between the claim and the thesis statement and the evidence? Okay, just take a second and do that. If it does, great job, nice. Press play and move on to the next practice. Oh, there we go. Oh my goodness. If no, how can you adjust it so that it makes sense? Okay, this is supposed to be practice to help you get better. So make any changes that you need to make it more clear about the connection. Press play after you make your changes. All right, our second type is called play it out. And this is for the positive direction. So this is where you're going to explain the cause and effect. And you're focusing on the positive effect of the evidence has to prove the claim. For example, my claim is school uniforms should be mandatory in schools. My evidence is the same as it was before. The first school district in the U.S. to require all K through 8 students to wear uniforms was Long Beach, California in January 1994. Their reasons for mandating uniforms were to deter crime and increase student safety. So now, last time I talked about the negative. So this time I'm going to explain the positive. There we go. Here we go. School uniforms make it easier to identify visitors. That's a one reason. Oopsie. There's a spelling error there. School uniforms make it easier to identify visitors or people who should not be on campus. Okay, so that's reason number one why school uniforms can be a good thing, positive thing. If a person does not have a uniform, a call would be quickly made to the office. 2, positive. The school could send someone to check if the person's should be on campus. This would lead to a safer environment and curtail vandalism on campus. So this whole thing is me explaining why school uniforms are positive and just giving more detail. All right, ready for your practice? Practice number 2, get your sheet of paper. You are going to try to explain the positive effect the evidence has to prove the claim. Here is your claim thesis statement. Binge watching can be beneficial for social connections. Here's your quote. According to procon.org, a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, ooh, a journal, that's good, found that binge watching can help long-term relationships by replacing shared activities like going to dinner together and having mutual friends. So this is the same as before. but now you are going to try explain why this is a positive thing for social connections. Give me details. All right, so you're going to write your explanation on your piece of paper. Again, you can try using one of these sentence starters to get you going to write your thoughts. So pause the video and write that. Press play when you write your explanation. Okay, now you're going to press play again, but first reread your explanation. Does it further explain and make the connection between the claim and thesis statement and the evidence? If it does, nice! Press play and continue for the next kind of explanation. If it doesn't, how can you adjust your explanation so that it makes sense? Evaluate yourself. Oh, evaluate. No, oh my gosh. Ignore that. Again, this is practice to make you better. Press play when you are ready for the next one. All right, type number 3 is the long-term impact. This is thinking about the future. This is where you will explain what could happen in the future / what the long-term impact of the evidence could be in relation to the claim. So, for example, our claim for this one is plastic water bottles should be banned. Here's our evidence. Jennifer Gitlett. That's a fun last name. Research Director for Container Recycling Institute. That's who she is. So this little thing explains her, why we should trust her. She reports water bottles are wasted and end up being put into landfill, incinerated, or littered. So now my explanation is going to tell me about the long-term impact that this evidence can have. If I could get to come up. There it is. Continual use. Here we go. Continual use and disposal of water bottles will have a devastating effect on our future generations. We will create pollutants that harm humans and create health issues. Okay, so those are some possible effects of the long-term impact that water bottles could have on future generations. And I kind of went into some detail about explaining that. All right, get ready for you to try the long-term impact. So you're going to try to explain the future effects and the long-term impact of the evidence to prove the claim. Your claim again is, oh, not again, this is a new one. Binge watching leads to serious physical health problems. The evidence is, according to procon.org, one study found that binge watching was related to poorer sleep quality, more fatigue, and insomnia because of pre-sleep arousal. So that means waking, pre-sleep, waking early. So now you need to explain on your piece of paper what impact this evidence can have on health problems. Again, you can use one of these sentence starters to get your thoughts going. Press pause and write your explanation. Press play when you're ready to move on. Again, reread your explanation. Does it further explain and make the connection between the claim and thesis statement and the evidence? Get that connection. If yes, nice. Press play to keep going. If no, What changes can you make to your explanation so that it makes sense and relates to the claim? Because that's the whole point. Press play after you make your changes. Fourth type, offer other solutions. This is where you add on to the ideas of the evidence by giving your own suggestions. For example, my claim is elephants should not be kept in zoos. The quote is, to support that is, quote/evidence, is keeping elephants in a zoo is inhumane. They can develop many diseases such as foot ulcers from walking on the concrete within their cage. So now my commentary here is going to offer other solutions. There are other alternatives to keeping elephants in zoos. We can keep them in nature preserves, so that's my other suggestion, where they can roam freely and not develop the diseases. All right, so you can see how I've added on to this with some positive solutions of something else that could happen. All right, now here's your fourth practice. You're going to offer other solutions to try to support your claim. The claim is binge watching leads to mental health issues. Interesting. So here's our evidence. One of these studies' authors, Yoon Hee Soon, PhD, stated, when binge watching becomes rampant, which is like excessive, viewers may start to neglect their work and their relationships with others. All right, I'm going to pause the video while these... Okay, now we're back. Viewers may start to neglect their work and their relationships with others. Even though people know they should not, they have difficulty resisting the desire to watch episodes continuously. So now you, for your explanation, try to offer other solutions for what people could do instead of binge watching so that they will not have mental health issues. You'll write this on your piece of paper, per usual. And then again, you can try using one of these sentence starters to get your thoughts going. Pause the video, write your explanation. Once you have done that, reread your explanation. Does it further explain and make the connection between the claim and thesis statement and the evidence? If it does, nice. Press play and continue. If it doesn't, how can you adjust your explanation so that it makes sense? Press play after you make your changes. All right, so just as to sum it up, here are the 4 types that we went through. Play it out, opposite direction. Play it out, positive. Long-term impact, and then offer other solutions. There are many more types of these things that we can use, but I just wanted to teach you guys these 4 to start with. Congrats, you made it to the end of my really long video. Great job.